Welcome into Rock Solid Sports. It's Friday night. I'm your host, Chloe. I'm here with Riley in the studio, and we have over on StreamYard Alex and Gabriel. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It's been a busy day. Graduation was today, right across the street. So definitely still some traffic around here for grads and undergrads. Both graduated today for the fall semester. Super exciting. Shout out to Jack Foster, one of our own who graduated today. Shout out to everyone else who graduated today. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. I know it's like a weird part of the semester, but there's still sports going on to talk about. How are you guys doing tonight? Let's see if Riley's mic is working.
Is it working?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
there we
nice. Yeah, pretty good. Got to go to the graduation today and see a couple of my buddies graduate. So a little bittersweet moment, But yeah, glad to see them doing what they're doing and doing great things, So I'll be excited to see what's going on from here on for them.
For sure, I agree. You guys on StreamYard, how are you all doing this Friday evening? Gabriel.
I'm doing.
Oh, there you go.
Hello. Oh yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be at home for the weekend, first weekend at home. Ready to talk some sports though. We got some big stuff coming up here.
That's the biggest adjustment I have to make, muting my mic on StreamYard. I mean, it happens every time I head home. I'm so used to it in the studio. I can just go into it. It's right there on StreamYard. I just always forget to unmute it. But, it's going well back at Nashville, making Christmas cookies with my family tonight. So that's fun. And, it's good to be around the family in this time of year.
That's awesome. Yeah, I knew immediately. I was like, Gabriel, it's your mic. But no, we got you. We're glad to have you guys on the show again. Thanks so much for joining us. Getting into mid-December, people are starting heading home, so it's really great to have you guys here. We'll get into it with college football. First of all, I said congrats to all the grads. There are quite a few Vol football grads today. I don't want to list them out because I know I'll miss one of them. So, yeah. But there's some good ones. Ramel Keaton, right, graduated. And we had Kamal Haddon, I think, graduated too. There was a few. There's a few in there, but to all of them, all the Vol football grads, all the big names, all the small names, everyone in between. Thank you so much for all that you've done for UT, and congrats! You're now officially a Vol for life, and you can't go back, no matter what. Big news today, exciting news. Omari Thomas is staying for the 2024. I guess it was yesterday. Maybe it was today or yesterday that it was announced. Omari Thomas staying for the 2024 season. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, Omari Thomas is staying for the 2024 season. Super big news. Obviously, super needed. We went through on Wednesday players that were leaving or are in the transfer portal, and these players are all very valuable assets to Tennessee. A lot of valuable assets to the defense leaving, especially. So super excited to have Omari still here with us, regardless. And yeah, any comments on that, you guys?
Yeah, I talked about this for a little bit on another podcast where I was, we were talking about the outlook for Tennessee football next year, and like you said, who was staying and who was leaving. And Omari Thomas was a guy that we kind of talked about as a unique case, as someone that if he did go to the draft, we think he'd be successful. He'd be, probably like day 2, pretty great pick for someone heading into the NFL. But at the same time, I was kind of like, he feels like a guy that might just come back for that extra season. Omari Thomas is one of those just like Vol through and through Tennessee guys. So he's one that like I was looking at as someone who, despite having good prospects going into this draft season, I think could have come back and worked out that way. So yeah, glad to have Big O back, hold down the middle of the defense. It'll be good to have him, especially with so many graduates and so many people leaving in that secondary, having some stability up front, particularly from a leadership standpoint in the locker room, because that's a role that Big O fills. It'll be good to have that.
Yeah, you mentioned leadership, Riley. I think that's the kind of the biggest thing we see here, because we talked about on Monday, just all of those pieces. You mentioned leaving that secondary and a defensive unit that has had its struggles over, the past couple of years. So just keeping that leadership in place, and for some of those younger guys that are going to be playing, especially in the secondary, just having that one of those guys that they can look to set an example for. I think that's going to be key, because we talked about on Monday about there's some good in having some older players leave just because you get to see what the younger guys can do. But at the same time, you're gonna miss that leadership that the older guys can bring. And I think it's big for Omari it's big that Omari's staying here just to help lead those younger guys. Talent level aside, which we all know he brings, just being that vocal guy, being someone who can set an example for them is huge when your defense may be losing some of those guys.
Yeah, it just seems like we've been, kinda it's been a tough couple of days for Tennessee football, losing a bunch of people to the portal, figuring out what next year team is gonna look like. This isn't a transfer portal news, but this is almost like an addition to next year's team with the impact that he's going to have, just by staying around and being that veteran locker room presence that you guys have mentioned. So, I mean, this is a big victory for Tennessee next year. Obviously, the defense is key to SEC football, and yeah, it's going to be a big help to that defensive line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like Riley was saying, it really says a lot that this is someone who definitely could do well if he declared for the NFL draft. I think we can all agree, but it's someone who chose to stay here. And I think that's really important and says a lot about, UT and the program here and what Josh Heupel has done. So it's definitely exciting. In other news, and you can't blame him, Jalen Wright declares for the NFL draft. I think that we all, I mean, if there's a player this year that definitely has had success that everyone can agree on, it's definitely Jalen Wright. Had a great year. And I think we can all agree that Jalen Wright's someone who will do well in the NFL draft, and I cannot blame him for declaring for that. So we wish him the best of luck. Any comments on Jalen Wright?
Yeah, it's like the local draft nut. I'm all for the NFL draft. It's probably my favorite sporting event of the year. This was something that it was very obvious. You saw it coming pretty much from the beginning of the year, where that Virginia game, you could kind of tell this is a guy that comes draft time, he's going to be getting picked. And it's something that with Jalen Wright right now, I think might be the most underrated player at his position. Maybe the most underrated running back in the entire draft going into this draft process. I think as we hit the off season and like postseason time, and teams are starting to look over film, and people, draft analysts, things like that, start to look over film, and they kind of get deeper down into their list. They're going to see Jalen Wright as one of those hidden gems, because right now nobody's really talking about him as a day 2, day 3, early day 3 guy. He's one of those fringe 6th, 7th round guys as it stands now. I think going into this process, and as people start diving into what he does on the field, the way he's impossible to bring down, the ball carrier vision, the speed, Jalen Wright's a guy that will rise in this draft process. He will be one of those guys that starts flying up the boards and could potentially be, I think, a late day 2, or very early day 3 type of pick.
Yeah, I can completely agree, Riley. I think just as it progresses, I really see him as like a 3rd round type of running back, just with what he brings with his explosiveness. And as teams look at it and look at what he did, I mean, one thing about him is he hasn't had that huge workload that we see all the time with NFL backs that kind of maybe, hampers some expectations coming out. You see these guys, the workload's so big in college, and then NFL teams get kind of scared about what they're going to do in the NFL, just the nature of the position of running back and how quickly those guys seem to go through it. But a guy who hasn't had a huge workload, but has shown all of the explosiveness, and I see like a pretty complete back there, just in terms of the toughness he brings, the explosiveness he brings as a back. But besides draft talk, it also, just looking at that room, it's going to provide opportunities for other people to step up in that Tennessee running back room. With Dylan Sampson being the big name there. He showed flashes this year, and maybe Cam Seldon. So it's going to be interesting to see next year what we get from that running back room, when it's a position group that we really relied on this year, especially at the beginning and throughout. It became the identity of our offense rather than the passing game. And that kind of goes through what the running backs can do. And you're losing your most explosive player there. It's going to be interesting to see if they can find a guy that replicates that. I think they do. I think just with what Dylan Sampson showed. He's shown good flashes, but it's just something to monitor going into the next season.
And Gabriel, to your point about the workload, I think the way the NFL is changing right now, particularly at the running back position, like you said, a lot of these teams aren't giving guys as big workloads game by game because of how, rigorous the position is and how quickly guys get injured there. So I think in that way, the NFL is changing, and that's going to benefit Jalen Wright going into this draft process, because now a team, my big thing is I hope he goes to the Titans,
Right,
because Titans are probably going to move on from Derrick Henry. You've got Tyjae Spears, who's shown flashes. Now you need it. I don't think Tyjae Spears can handle a full workload like we've seen from Derrick Henry. So you need another back, and I think pairing two guys like that, right? Two guys that can handle a good workload and still be explosive. In that way, since the NFL is changing in that direction, I think Jalen Wright, his prospects are going to be better than they might have been a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you talk about that explosive. It's a guy who can hit that explosive play when he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to do it. And that's something we've seen Jalen Wright. That's kind of been his MO. So, yeah, I completely agree. Just kind of a perfect fit for how this NFL is changing.
Yeah.
Hey, don't put that Derrick Henry moving on from the Titans magic out there, Riley. We don't want any of that. No, sir. That'd be painful for me.
It'll be painful for me too, but it's one of those things where I just kind of feel like it's an inevitability at this point. I feel like it's gonna come. I'm starting to prepare myself for the worst,
I'm really numb to
the you're brave.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. But exactly, the explosive plays thing, absolutely, for sure. Right, first few seconds of the Georgia game. We won't talk about the result, but I mean that's why you come to Tennessee.
And he did that. He did that like 2 or 3 times this season, where it was first play he just hits the home run, and that's the kind of back he is, and why he'll have success at the next level.
Exactly, I agree. Moving on from Vol football, there are
wait.
Oh wait, sorry.
There is a little news that just came out. I just saw this. Holden Stays, the transfer tight end from Notre Dame, just announced his commitment to Tennessee.
Okay.
That's
so
huge.
Gonna get a little bit of replacement from the production that you lose with Jacob Warren and McAllen Castles. So it'll be good to have him in the room. Pair him up with Ethan Davis and see what they can do as the new tight end tandem here in Rocky Top.
That's
awesome. A couple athletic guys. It's going to be fun to watch what we can tap into there.
Yeah,
that should make Vol fans very happy after the mismanagement with the UConn Justin Jolly tight end deal, and kind of taking him another direction and then not getting the guy you were going for. That's a big get. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. That's, I guess, kind of breaking news. Yeah. I don't know.
A little bit. Yeah.
Kind of somewhat. It's news. So that's awesome. We always, we're talking about how we need someone to fill in the holes for sure. I'd say we need to, everything that we can get. So we'll see how that goes. It was crazy how many seniors there were this year. I think there was 33, 38. I can't remember which one of those, something seniors being recognized. So that was, when I heard that, I was like, oh man, but there's always good things coming, as we can see with the breaking news. Notable bowl games this weekend. We talked about these on Wednesday. I know Alex was here. And nothing like crazy, but there is a few games. We talked about Appalachian State here is playing, and I think it was Alex made the joke about App State always gets an upset, or not always, but they find the way to get an upset. Back in, what year was it? I think we went to overtime with them. We won, but it was a Thursday night game. It was 4 years ago, maybe.
Right.
So, App State playing their bowl game versus Miami, Ohio tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. There's that one. There's, of course, I would say the biggest, UCLA and Boise State is on 7:30 tomorrow night. UCLA not having the season they quite wanted, but this is, they got a bowl game versus Boise State. I think it should be a good one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like on tomorrow's slate if you're a college football fan. Not many of those super flashy teams that you're going to get later into the bowl season, but like you mentioned, Miami, Ohio, App State, that's going to be a fun one. I'm looking at the New Mexico State Fresno State game. New Mexico State, I want to say, didn't they beat Auburn
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting to see what they can do, and see if they can pull off the win against Fresno State, who's, been one of those, college football teams that's kinda hung around that 8-4 mark for a while now. But, yeah, like you mentioned, the highlight's probably gonna be UCLA, Boise State. Lots to like on that team, lots to like for UCLA. Pretty good defense, and their big guy on defense, they're gonna be missing one guy. So Leatu Latu probably going to the draft and will not be playing in that bowl game, but only missing one guy from a defensive unit going into a bowl game is going to be major for them for that one. And Boise State had some interesting games, absolutely demolished UNLV. I want to say it was a 9-win team this season, so big ups to them, and I'll be interested to watch this one. This will be one that I'm definitely tuning into.
Yeah, just talking about Miami, Ohio. Go ahead, Alex. You got it.
Oh, so an interesting nugget about this UCLA game. They're playing at SoFi Stadium, which of course is in Inglewood, or in LA, and UCLA plays at the Rose Bowl normally. They're actually playing a game closer to their campus than their actual place where they play their home games, which is just an interesting thing about college football.
Yeah.
Home game for them.
I mean, Miami of Ohio. Yeah, I actually know an absurd amount. I know 4 people who go to Miami of Ohio, which in my mind is just insane considering they all went to high school with me, and I went to high school in Nashville. I have no idea how that happened, but I don't know. Apparently, there's a hub there. But yeah, also their starting quarterback, I think, or at one point their starting quarterback was Blaine Gabbert's brother. So there's my Miami of Ohio fun facts for today. But yeah, UCLA, obviously the big game. Chip Kelly it kind of seemed like things were heading down this year. Just they've always been this team that's kind of been in it. They've been in that 25 range, and then they win a game that they weren't supposed to win, and then they lose a game that they're not supposed to win. And things were really looking down this year. But Chip Kelly might have chased this job. I'm not sure what the situation is over there, but it'll be interesting to see the offense he deploys in that bowl game, and just I mean, it's Chip Kelly team. Something's going to be interesting to take away from it. So that's mainly what I'm watching, just to see what UCLA can do heading into another year where I don't know what the expectations are for that team, with everything that's changing. And are you giving Chip Kelly another year and all of that? And it'll be interesting to watch. I think this bowl game will be a good sight into the future of the next season of the young guys that they're going to have to play.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I agree. Definitely, for sure. This game's on Monday, so not this weekend, but it's Western Kentucky and Old Dominion. I'm really intrigued in the famous Toastery Bowl, not for the game, but because of the name. And I looked it up. Famous Toastery is like a breakfast place in North Carolina, apparently. But I just thought that the name, some of the names, I just had to point that one out. But Western Kentucky, of course, a team that we're kind of familiar with if you're from Tennessee, just because they're from pretty close. I had a few relatives and friends who go there, so it'll be interesting to see that. I think they're supposed to win, but that's always interesting to see those smaller schools, like Florida A&M. That's another one who we played in smaller sports like basketball, but be in a bowl game as well. So should be interesting. With that, I think that's about all we can say about bowl games. I mean, not all we can say, but that's the bowl games, and
there's not much else until we're talking about late into next week.
Yes, we will get more into it next week, of course, on Rock Solid Sports as we get closer to our bowl game and the college football playoffs. Of course, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. We're doing NFL next. We don't usually do NFL second on my show, but we need to give NFL the time the love it needs, because as we're inching closer to playoff season, we'll cover that in just a few minutes. Thursday night football and this weekend's games. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Consultants? We don't need no stinking consultants. He rode a blazing saddle,
keeping the Knoxville radio airwaves safe from all the corporate commercial cookie cutter crap. We are the Rock of the Hill. 90.3 The Rock.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears!
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. AllVols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, go Lady Vols.
The Rock receives support from Cool Beans Bar and Grill, offering tabletop sports, outdoor seating, and Trivia Tuesdays. Open 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. 7 days a week on Lake Avenue between campus and the Strip, and the home of the Rock Solid Sports Monday Night Live broadcast fall and spring semesters. That's coolbeansbar.com.
WTK thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support, and we wish Coach Kelly Harper and the team good luck this season. The Lady Vols' next home game versus Wofford, Tuesday, December 19th at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center at 6:30 p.m. Student ticket requests are at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. General public tickets are at allvols.com. Volunteer Radio says, go Lady Vols, beat the Terriers.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. AllVols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball.
Hey, this is Wes from Moon Taxi. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3, The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Hi, this is Derek and Rob from the Funhouse. It was brought to our attention that our show and the things that we do could be seen as childish and not funny, sophomoric, vapid, stupid, and a complete and utter waste of time.
We strive to bring you the most entertaining radio that we're capable of each and every week.
So won't you please continue to support us and the station? Tune in every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. only on 90.3 The Rock.
The Funhouse, syphilis free since 2013.
Stop by the Funhouse Friday nights from 8 till 10 only on 90.3 The Rock.
The Funhouse is proudly sponsored by Raven Records and Rarities and Happy Holler, providing Knoxville with vinyl and more for nearly 40 years. And by ScruffyCity.com, your downtown destination.
The Rock received support from Fieldhouse Social, sports games paired with cold beers in reach in University Commons. Fieldhouse Social offers a diverse menu of tavern foods such as pulled pork nachos, the Fieldhouse Cobb salad, and the Applewood smoked chicken wings. Kick back and relax in the lounge. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. AllVols.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Base Vols good luck on the diamond this season.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports. It's Friday night. I'm Chloe here with Riley in the studio. We got Alex and Gabriel on StreamYard, and we're going to get back into some NFL here. We're glad for everyone who has tuned in. Thanks for listening. And yeah, hopefully it'll be worth your while. We'll start out with NFL in this second segment. Thursday night football, I mean, I guess I don't know if I want to say there's a lot to unpack here. There's nothing to unpack. The Raiders defeated the Chargers 63-21. It was pretty brutal, especially for the first half of it, for sure. The few touchdowns there, like the second half, made it look a lot better than it was. But I think at one point it was like 40-something to nothing before the Chargers scored, I want to say. So yeah, this was an absolute beatdown. This is a game, Thursday night game, that you look at and you're like, oh gosh, like that's not exciting. But then this happens and really makes the Chargers look not good. Any comments on this one, guys?
42-0, by the way.
Yeah,
at
42.
one point in
Okay.
the game. So yeah, it was an absolute beatdown. It continues our trend of absolutely god awful Thursday night games. They've just been a pain to watch this season. Easton Stick is making all the Justin Herbert is bad arguments look real bad, because you see what happens to the Chargers when they're without Justin Herbert. And man, it was so bad it got Brandon Staley fired and the general manager. So they cleaned house after this, and rightfully so. I think a 63-21 loss to Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders, who have had their own stretch of terrible play and firing coaches. There's a lot to unpack here. I would say I would lean to there's a lot to unpack rather than there's nothing to unpack, because I think Chargers fans should be honestly happy with the way this went down, because you were never going anywhere with Brandon Staley. He was going to be dragging your team down for as long as he was the head coach. So now that he's gone, and you've got like 60% of the cap on like 4 players next season, you can kind of get ready to, hit the reset button. Justin Herbert at the helm, maybe not reset, but reload and make a real push for playoff runs and actual competition at the top of the AFC. Because right now the Chargers just can't do that, and that was going to be a trend for as long as Brandon Staley was there. So now that he's gone, Chargers have a chance. They're going to have to make the right hirings and get the right help for Justin Herbert and get a defense, because right now they've got about Khalil Mack, and that's about it. So
yeah,
lots to unpack here for the Chargers, I think, especially for the Chargers, not as much for the Raiders.
Yeah, for some ungodly reason, I watched most of this game, and it's just Chargers were a team that it was clear they'd given up on their coach, and the locker room had just given up, and probably a lot of that has to do with Herbert getting injured, and just they were pretty much dead in the water before that, but especially now with Easton Stick starting at quarterback, and he immediately just fumbles the ball on one of the first drives of the game, and it wasn't good. And just looking at Brandon Staley, you mentioned, Riley, about how bad their defense is. He's a defensive guy. I mean, that's what he's coming from. He's coming from the Rams, going to bring in some defensive philosophy to the Chargers, and it did not work at all. I mean, they never had a good defense, and on paper, when they had when they signed J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, Joey Bosa's injured, but when he was healthy, and Khalil Mack, it's like on paper it seems like a decent defense, but they never got that play out of their top guys. And you're paying them all that money, you have to get it. And it's just to have 63 put on you from a team that didn't score any points last week against a Vikings defense that is arguably less talented, but they have Brian Flores coaching the defense, and he's actually doing his job as an NFL coach and making them good and putting them in positions to succeed. It's staggering on what a poor job Brandon Staley did with this team. You had the whole playoff things against the Raiders the first year. You had the blown lead against the Jaguars. I mean, he probably should have gotten fired after that, if we're being honest. And just coming this year, it's like, okay, he knows he's on the hot seat. All the chips are on the table. You have to be successful this year. And there's some injuries, yeah, but it just comes down to his defense not being good enough. So, yeah, obvious move by the Chargers. Like Riley said, they can figure out a way out of this mess. You've got Justin Herbert, and you have a decent receiving core, and you have a franchise left tackle. So you should be able to get something out of that. But they need a retooling there, and they need somebody with good luck, because this team is just ridden with bad luck. And I don't know. I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they needed to get rid of him 2 years ago after the playoff
probably.
loss in 2021. Brandon Staley, his job has been on the hot seat for a while, and they finally decided to pull the trigger, and thank God they did, because if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm throwing a party today. I'm sure all 8 of them are just going crazy.
This is something to put it in perspective. Just 5 years ago, Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator and secondary coach at John Carroll University. John Carroll University is a Division III level Ohio Athletic Ohio Athletic Conference, and that's where he was 5 years ago. From then, he went, of course, to the NFL, coached at the Bears, then the Broncos, and then the defensive coordinator at the Rams. I mean, Brandon Staley hasn't had the typical path of a NFL coach. He was a gamble. He was, like you mentioned, somebody who was brought in to, rejuvenate that defense, make a stance against the Chargers have always had that fun offense. You look back at the Philip Rivers days, with LaDevin Tomlinson. I mean, they were beasts. They were units. They've always had that flair. And unfortunately, with some questionable coaching decisions, I mean, you look at the 4th and 1s on the 30 where they go for it. I mean, there's all of these question marks that have arisen, and it's the end of an era. I'm sure Chargers fans are very happy to see him go after the mismanagement of the talent that they've had. I've honestly believed that Philip Rivers was a great quarterback at his time, and Justin Herbert kind of in that same era. He's flashy. I remember when a couple years ago it was in the division, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. I mean, they were comparing them as equals, and I still think you can do that if you give him a good team. He is an elite quarterback in the NFL, and I think in the coming years they're going to try and put pieces around him with a coach that is just decent, and this Chargers team can compete against the best in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. You look at the difference in the talent on those two rosters. You mentioning comparing Herbert and Mahomes. You look at the difference in the talent. The talent difference is not that big on the offensive side of the ball. I would say they're pretty even. You have a great quarterback and then pretty much nothing around them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I would say the Chiefs have a better defense. They've been struggling as of late, but they have a better defense than the Chargers have had. So if the rosters are not that dissimilar, why have the Chiefs been so held up high as opposed to the Chargers? It's because of the coach. You look at it's Andy Reid versus Brandon Staley, and rightfully so. Brandon Staley got fired because he can't keep up with Andy Reid, and he can't keep up with most coaches in the league. Obviously, as we're seeing, can't keep up with an interim head coach over there in Las Vegas. So it's a big day for Chargers fans, and maybe we can start to see what we were seeing flashes of towards the beginning of Herbert's career, where he was having these, just fantastic quarterback duels with Patrick Mahomes, twice a year and even in the playoffs. So I hope we can get back to that with the Chargers, because I would say the league is better when you have a fun Chargers team out there.
Yeah, Alex, you mentioned the Philip Rivers days, and it just goes to show you how this is nothing new for the Chargers. Because one of the weirdest stats in the NFL from one of those Philip Rivers seasons, there was a season where they had statistically the best offense and the best defense, and they missed the playoffs. They went like 7-8 that year, and it shows you this has been a thing with the Chargers where they've had the talent. It's honestly been the coach and culture, whatever you want to call it, that's been holding this team back. They're snake bitten. Like it's honestly, it needs to be studied on how they always underperform to expectations. And you talk about what can fix this. I think they just need to bring in somebody who's an adult in the room in the head coaching position, who's had experience at the job, and just someone who can, I don't know, shift the culture. I think that's really what needs to happen in LA. They just need a big old culture shift, because that really can be the only thing holding this team back.
Yeah. Chargers, I mean, it's gone downhill fast. I mean, they have a little bit of a break. Well, they don't play again until December 23rd, but it's the Bills. But it's in LA, so it's definitely agree with everything. It's gone downhill fast, and it's not good. But like you guys said, I would have to agree. I think it's the coaching as well. Also, I forgot Josh Palmer from Tennessee plays for the Chargers. So
yeah, caught himself one of the 3 touchdowns the Chargers got was like the only bright spot in that game for the Chargers. Yeah, shout out Josh Palmer, that big like 75-yard touchdown or something like that. Shout out.
Exactly. A VFL there. Anyways, a lot of other games this weekend. We'll start with the home team, the Texans at the Titans, in Nashville. Obviously a very, very big game. Texans are, not it after it's a very big game because of the Monday night game, right? That happened with the Dolphins. The Titans, like we talked about on Wednesday, are giving us hope, us Titans fans hopes again after this win. A great win, their best of the season. I would say their best of the season so
Definitely.
far. So this is a big game because of that game, and we're praying and begging for the playoffs, and we'll have to see how it goes with this Texan game. What are you guys thinking about, like, honest opinion, honest predictions for this game coming up this weekend in Nashville?
Yeah, this should be a good one for the Titans. You've got D-Hop playing against his old team. That Will Levis to D-Hop connection looks stronger than ever. They look better and better together each week. And I cannot wait to see what they do after a whole offseason together. But going forward, you've got the Texans in this game are going to be without like half of their team. Their entire team is injured this week. So it's a good look for the Titans heading into this one.
Favor.
Yeah, no CJ Stroud, no Will Anderson. So a couple of key players, they're two big rookies that they got at the top of last year's draft. It bodes well for the Titans. It really does. Going into this one, it's at home. Everything tells you they should win this game. Coming off their biggest win of the season, classic Vrabel ball type of win, beating a team that's way better than you for absolutely zero reason. It's classic Vrabel. So going into this one, I'm almost expecting them to lose because that is the exact type of thing I would expect.
Just what the Titans do.
Yeah, missing CJ Stroud,
way.
missing Will Anderson, missing all these key players coming off their biggest win of the season at home, D-Hop revenge game, and it's just not going to go their way. That's just the way it feels because that offensive line for the Titans is atrocious. It needs to be fixed, and I think going forward, once it is fixed, with Will Levis at the helm, D-Hop catching passes, whoever else is catching passes across from, whether it's Traylon Burks or whoever else, I'm looking to see him get more involved this week. The future is bright for the Titans. It's just I don't know if it's this year.
Yeah, that Miami win, just a little got a little more enjoyment out of it from me because one of my co-hosts on the Monday show, Matthew, is a big Dolphins fan.
Oh,
and
I
he
was watching the game with him. I was watching the game with him at Yeehaw Brewery. We had a
how was he handling it? Did he handle it well?
Man, he did. It was rough for him. We were all. He was surrounded by Titans fans. So in that last drive after I guess it was the fourth down, right, where they couldn't convert at the end of the game. Miami was. He just kind of took his jacket and put it over his head, and he just kind of sat there while we were all in there celebrating and yelling and stuff. So yeah, it was a rough Monday night for old Matt, but hey, he'll bounce back. And the Dolphins are a good team.
Hey, he was talking before the week about us coming into the show, and he's like, "So you think Titans are gonna lose by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns?" So yeah, it had to cool his ego a little bit, but big win. And yeah, going forward to this game, you mentioned that just the Titans probably going to find a way to lose this game. Wouldn't be the worst thing ever, just in terms of draft stock, and maybe still getting like a top 10 pick or something, and just finding a way to improve the offense, whether that be through O-line and stuff like that. Another thing about the Titans, Tier Tart was released today, the defensive tackle, and in a bit of a surprising move. Just I think he's been unhappy with his contract situation since last year, I'm pretty sure, and he's playing on a I think $4.36 million contract this year. And there are talks from the Titans that he didn't put forth the necessary conditioning to stay on the field at all times. And it looks like according to his Twitter, he asked for a release and the Titans obliged. But, not a huge concern, honestly, just because with what this team's able to do at the defensive tackle position, where it feels like, we're cycling guys in and out and are able to get production out of them. Kyle Pecco got injured last week too, and he's out for the year. But I mean, I'm sure we're going to be able to find someone else that steps into that role.
Right, UDFA from last year's draft, undrafted, TK McClendon. He's been the guy.
Yeah.
He's been the guy that's taken over the Tier Tart role, and he's done it just about as well as Tier Tart was doing. So I'm not super upset with this. And you said it was surprising. I don't know if it was that surprising because I feel like they've kind of slowly been working Tier Tart out of the defense as this year has gone on, working more with TK McClendon and Pecco before he did get injured. So I don't know if I would say it's all that surprising. Maybe I
was surprised it happened mid-season.
Right.
I saw us moving on from him. I was surprised it happened with like 4 weeks left to go in the season.
Right.
But a Texans team that hasn't really been able to run the football on paper with the injuries they have. I think I don't know if Nico Collins is playing, but of course, thank Dale Zone for the season. It's just on paper, Titans are probably a better football team than them, which is saying something because they're not on paper. They're not a better football team than a lot of teams, but yeah, it's just that Titans feeling of, you win a game you're not supposed to win, and then you go lose a game that you're supposed to win. But we'll see. And again, I wouldn't be heartbroken. Like I always want to win a game. Don't get me wrong, but draft stock, getting a better player there wouldn't be the worst consolation prize.
Nico Collins says he's questionable. It says him and Noah Brown are both questionable going into this one.
If those two guys are out, who are the receivers? They don't have that's
it'd be like Robert Woods and John Mechie. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the bigger loss is that Jeffrey Simmons isn't playing this weekend. That's the star of the defense not playing against the Texans. That's 2 defensive tackles gone just like that for the Titans. And you love him or hate him, but Tier Tart, he was an NFL player, and having to stick in somebody who is still coming into that role and not having Big Jeff beside him to give him that veteran presence out there on the field. That's a tough loss for the Titans. And of course, as a fellow Titan fan, this is one of those games, you're right, where it's a letdown game, where we do the improbable, beat one of those good teams, and then we go into a game where we expect to win. Historically, we've done what we want against the Texans. Derrick Henry, I don't know how many games he's rushed for 100 yards against the Texans, but I don't know. You look at I've been looking at the playoff machine on ESPN, and there is a path for the Titans to make the playoffs, and that's the crazy fan in me, where you think there's a will, there's a way. Obviously, stuff has to happen, but it starts this weekend.
We have a
will.
Will Levis, Will Levis.
Yeah.
We have a will. There you go. We got some mayo. There it is. But no, it's gonna be probably a slugfest, because that's normally how it goes after a fun game. But I'm excited to see that connection grow between D-Hop and Will Levis. That's fun. That's exciting.
That's been my favorite part of this season so far, is watching how those two play together. It's like when Tannehill was the quarterback, you didn't really see D-Hop. He wasn't really a factor. And then the moment Will Levis got thrown in there, it was like every other pass is to D-Hop, and he's making all these super exciting plays. And that just comes from Will Levis being aggressive, pushing the ball down the field, and trying to force the ball to one of his better players. And it's working right now. So
what about Tajay Spears? He came out of nowhere and it's been dominating.
What a baller, dude. He's one of those players that, like, coming into the season, I was kind of hoping he would get some run, just because of the type of player he was at Tulane, and just watching him be so explosive, and he's carried that right into the NFL, and it's looked really good even behind that awful offensive line that the Titans have.
Well, you saw it in the preseason for Tajay Spears too. Just instantly as he gets out there, and it's preseason football, but you saw that he had the juice in there. And yeah, with Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins, it's like Will Levis got in the game, and he's like, I'm throwing it to that guy. That guy's good. Like, I'm just gonna keep throwing it to that guy. We're gonna see how this plays out. But even in a loss for the Titans, if Will Levis looks good, right, that's really all you can ask.
That's all. Yep, absolutely.
For the future hopes, like, if Will Levis looks good, I'm leaving that game feeling okay, because there's a chance the Titans still make a very slim chance, but it's pretty much on to next season for the Titans. And if you just have more proof of concept that Will Levis can run this offense, you're just feeling even better about just retooling and getting it to a level where it can compete either next year or the year after, in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. What you guys said about how it just feels like something I've learned in working with sports for I've only been in college for 4 years, but I've been a sports fan for longer than that. And something I've learned is that, I don't know, maybe it's like my women's intuition or something, but if something feels like, there is no amount of stats that could convince me something will happen. If something feels right, it feels right. And if something feels wrong, it feels wrong. Just like how I predicted this year that LSU was not going to be as good as everyone said. That's a whole nother thing at Tucker.
We'll bring Tucker in here.
We'll get Tucker in now here. Our special guest Tucker to argue this. No, I'm just kidding. But that was the perfect example. And I feel like, exactly like you guys said, it would be so characteristic of the Titans to come in and lose this game. And this, while realistically, statistically, right, looking at ESPN matchup predictor, whatnot, it could go easily either way. I don't know. I just feel like the Titans. I feel like the Texans got it. I hate to say it, but I do, and it's easier to say it as a Titans fan that's already just been, let down so often. That, like I said, we're numb to it. But really quick to cover these other NFL games super fast. If you guys usually do upsets, locks and upsets.
Locking an upset.
All right. We'll go around and do that just so we can get through these games because there's a lot. We don't have time to talk about each of one of them specifically, but is anyone ready to go?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
I love the Giants over the Saints as an upset. Saints are 5.5-point favorites, and I think that's kind of surprising. I get that they're playing in New Orleans and all that. I like that one as an upset. Tommy DeVito's been playing his best ball. As for a lock, I'm gonna take Miami over the Jets. They demolished the Jets last time they played. I think they can get it done again this time in Miami. Zach Wilson or whoever else playing.
Okay. I'll go ahead. My luck, I got to do Chiefs and Patriots. I think the Chiefs have this one. They've been struggling lately, but it's Patriots. And I think that this game,
Patriots, by the way, put up 0 points on the Chargers defense that just gave up 63 or whatever.
That game that we just talked about.
Cool.
I think this one is pretty clear, personally. I think that I don't need to talk a lot about it. I think that the Chiefs win this one. My upset. I don't know why I literally just went into that with my luck. I guess my upset. I don't want to pick that one. Come back to me for an upset. Alex, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my lock being the Ravens over the Jaguars. I think the Ravens are one of the top teams in the NFL, and I'm just not sold on on Trevor Lawrence. I'm just not. I don't know what it is. I just don't think that he has gotten to that point yet. He hasn't made that jump. I think the Ravens get all over him away on the road. And my upset is probably going to have to be the Bears over the Browns. I think the Bears are fun. I think they're frisky and they can make some moves. And hey, you get into Week 18 and you see where they are, but it all starts with this game against the Browns.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Is that all you have? The Bears, the Bears or the Browns. I could definitely, I could see that for sure. I was just saying that was not the case early in the season, right? That was like crazy how the Bears
changed a lot.
Were somehow able, exactly. I guess my upset, I'm gonna have to go. I really don't have any hot takes this week. Any like specific upsets. Okay, fine. Let's do the Bills over the Cowboys. And
that's what I was thinking.
That's going to be my upset for the week. I don't know. It's Dallas, so that's always a factor. And
right now Dallas is favored. Or at least what I'm looking at.
Bills are favored 2.5 is what I see on ESPN.
Or that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, the Bills are favored.
Yeah. So you never know with this one. I think this will be a good game. This will be one of the better games of the week. And I think that the Bills get it, but not by a lot. I don't know. Gabriel is back. Gabriel, do you have a lock?
I made it back. Let's go. I can get my picks out. Yay. Let's see. Upset. Let's go Broncos at Lions. Lions have been a team that have been kind of they haven't been playing their best football lately. And, I think Broncos, they're kind of on the up, coming up. And, if I'm just going out on a limb, I'd go with that. For a lock, give me, I don't know. Let's do Dolphins over Jets. Dolphins need a rebound win. Zach Wilson had success for the Jets last week, but I don't see them being able to consistently replicate that. And it's one of those scenarios which team needs a win more, and I think the Dolphins need a win more to still fight for that number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure as well. Those are our picks for the week. There's also some good games. We'll see how the Vikings do this week. I always do now, but
Well, Josh Dobbs is now the 3rd string.
Right. So
that's
but I still feel like I have this obligation to follow it, but I really it's
Ty Chandler did take over as the RB1. So one ball goes down the depth chart, another one goes up. So
but my heart just breaks for him. After that game, what game was it? It was the Monday night game a few weeks ago, and I saw the TV on after the game, and I couldn't find my remote, and all the commentators were like, Josh Daw, just like talking about how bad he did, and I was like, I mean, yeah, but where's my
Oh, it was
remote?
that
I don't
Bears
wanna watch
game.
this anymore. Yeah, the Bears game, yeah, I was like, "Oh gosh." But anyways, we'll take a short break so we can get some basketball in here. Men's play tomorrow and the Lady Vols play on Tuesday. We'll talk about that really briefly. Stay tuned. You're listening to Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
From Sonic Youth, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allvols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball.
WUTK thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pregame and postgame location for UT football, and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans football on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the show's live broadcast from 7 to 8 Monday nights at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Fratello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Hey, this is Corey Glover from Living Color, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the Knoxville Ice Bears professional hockey team. The Ice Bears home games at the Civic Coliseum this Friday and Saturday, December 15th and 16th, have been postponed, and the rescheduled dates will be announced soon. Ice Bears tickets are at knoxvilleicebears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Tune in to WTK's Rock Solid Sports for Ice Bears news. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. Allvols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, go Lady Vols.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at knoxvilleicebears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears.
Hey kids, it's Derek
and Rob from the Funhouse.
Brought to you each Friday night by Raven Records and Rarities, located at 1200 North Central in Happy Hollow.
Join us each Friday as we kick off your weekend with classics from bands like The Descendants, The Stooges, My Morning Jacket, Mudhoney.
Newer stuff from Amel and the Sniffers, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Wet Leg, and Turnstile. You'll also catch some local stuff.
Hip-hop, Americana, metal.
Who knows? We don't even know half the time.
Every Friday at 8 o'clock, right here on 90.3 The Rock.
Hey, Jimmy from Out Loud Knox. How would you describe the show?
Music, blah, 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 blah.
The Funhouse is co-sponsored by your downtown destination, ScruffyCity.com.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. If you've been listening, thanks for sticking with us. I'm Chloe here with Riley, and we have on StreamYard Alex and Gabriel. We're just going to do some basketball to wrap up the show. Vol hoops, first of all, take on North Carolina State. That's tomorrow at 10 p.m. Pretty late. It's coming from San Antonio. Yeah. So this should be definitely an interesting game for sure. I think personally that the Vols have it, but not San Antonio. NC State, however, is a good team. They have guys who can score. They have like, just they haven't had any like super impressive wins so far, I would say. But however, they do a good job overall. I think it's Jaden Taylor is one of their top scorers. DJ Horn as well, really fun to watch. So we'll see how this one goes. But I think ultimately the Vols still have obviously guys who can score, Dalton Connect. And we'll see how this one goes. But I think it should be a fun one.
Yeah, every time you see these ACC, SEC matchups, they're always a lot of fun. Always great games to watch. You saw with the North Carolina game, despite the result, it was still a ton of fun to watch. And so if college basketball fans get a little treat on Saturday night if you plan to stay up that late, it'll be a fun one to watch. Just saw Jonas Adu have his career game. I wonder if he keeps it up, keeps the ball rolling like he had it in that game.
Me too. I wonder.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun litmus test for this Falls team. Just with kind of some they played, how they've looked against really good competition, and then they've blown out the teams they need to blow out. I feel like this is a very middle of the road matchup, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do against a team that's more in the middle of the road. And is this a neutral site game? I think I saw that, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. We saw in the Maui Invitational, but just away from home against a middle of the road team, and just see the type of team that the Vols are.
Alex.
Yeah, I think that if we can clean up the offensive rebounding, Adu has a good game. This should be a tightly contested game, but I think we get it done in the end. I will say that this team only has 2 losses, and one of them's to a pretty good Ole Miss team that's definitely making its way, and a pretty bad loss to BYU. But I mean, this team has proven that it can win the games it's supposed to. So I think that this will be a fun game to close out a very, very fun day of college basketball on Saturday. It's a big games.
Oh yeah, I wish you had time to talk about all those games as well. College basketball, best time of the year if you ask me. We'll get into those of course next week as well. We'll be talking about them all season long. Lady Vols really quick, up against Wofford on Tuesday. They, have had their moments this season for sure with head coach Kelly Harper coming off a win to Eastern Kentucky at home last Sunday. And then before that, a loss to MTSU. The win against Eastern Kentucky was also only a 9-point win as well. Obviously, a team, when you're this Lady Vols basketball team, you should probably have a little bit of a bigger win than that to Eastern Kentucky. And you definitely should have beat MTSU, and pretty bad loss to Ohio State before that. So it's been a tough stretch, to say the least. But Lady Vols, Wofford, this is a game they definitely should win. It's Wofford. This is a game we play, I think, both in men's and women's basketball pretty frequently.
Right.
And it's usually a win. So we'll see how that goes.
Usually, but so is MTSU.
Yeah, exactly.
Lady Vols were undefeated against MTSU in their program history until that game.
Wow.
It's not a great stat. Not a great stat.
Well,
just something to throw out there.
They got Liberty coming up, and then they go into SEC play. So it's going to be tough coming up along the stretch. We'll see how all that goes. I don't know. Stay tuned. The Funhouse is coming up next. Thanks for sticking with us for this hour, and we hope you stick with us for the next hour as well. Stay tuned to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock. Thanks for listening from Chloe, Riley, Alex, and Gabriel. We'll see you on Monday.